And we are live.
Good evening, everyone. I'd like to call this Thursday, May 21st, special city commission meeting to order and ask the clerk to call the roll, please.
Mayor Pam Triolo,
Present.
Vice Mayor Andy Amoroso.
Here.
I see him. Okay. Commissioner Scott Maxwell.
Here.
Commissioner Maury Hardy.
Here.
And Commissioner Herman Robinson.
Here.
Thank you.
If everyone would please rise for the pledge led by Commissioner Robinson.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Commissioner. We're going to move right along just to let everyone who's watching from home or work know we have two different meetings tonight. This is the special city commission meeting, and then we're going to follow it by a work session. So we have one item on the agenda for the city commission meeting, and then we'll move on. We'll close this down, adjourn it, and then move on to the second meeting. The only item on this agenda is new business item A. City Attorney, would you read the ordinance, please?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. Ordinance number 2020-04 of the City of Lake Worth Beach, Florida, authorizing the incurrence by the city of debt obligations to fund reserves for cash flow deficits related to the COVID-19 pandemic, providing that such obligations of the city do not create a general debt or obligation of the city or the state, but shall be payable from legally available revenues appropriated for such purpose, and providing an effective date.
So moved.
Second? Thank you very much. Okay, I guess we'll bring for the presentation our Finance Director, Bruce.
Yes, thank you very, very much. Bruce Miller, Finance Director for the record. Before you for consideration is a authorization in the form of an ordinance to allow the city to basically secure temporary financing. We're probably looking at a 10-year duration to give us time to pay back. But it will not have a call provision. So if we pay off early, there will be no penalty. But as you know, the pandemic is creating a cash flow concern. All revenues through the city are being impacted, and this essentially is a insurance policy that in case we need to have a line of credit, for lack of better words, we have those available funds and it's available to us. The benefit also is as it'll jumpstart some of the capital initiatives that were approved and authorized as an appropriation for fiscal year 20. It will give us potential funding for those capital projects also. So I think it's really does good fiscal management, financial management to provide the security in case there is a further tightening of the revenues, so that we can continue to operate seamlessly.
Thank you very much. Vice Mayor, you have your hand up?
Yeah, is this common practice? And do you know of other cities that are doing this?
I can't speak for other cities locally, but it is common practice, and it will be common practice as we go forward. The federal programs are identifying programs such as this, but right now you have to work through larger entities via the state or the county. We're not at a size that we can qualify. But this is an issue that is recognized. Quite honestly, I've done this in previous locales when necessary. So it's not out of the ordinary.
Thank you. Commissioner Robinson?
We finished, Bruce?
I'm sorry.
Yeah, and I was also going to say that our financial advisors, Davenport, and our legal counsel is pretty much all very much part of this endeavor, and they have experience. Both of them have experience in similar programs.
I just wanted to ask about any reimbursement from COVID emergency funds. I'm anxious to get and apply for every grant or every excuse to get federal money.
The city is positioning itself just for those issues. We have a consultant for the capital side, so that in case money comes available, we'll be primed at the pump to apply for those funds. We have the same process in place or being put in place for the operating side. So as operating funds become available, their grants will be primed at the pump. And our city staff is capturing expenditures to follow through reimbursement through FEMA and or other grant programs. So I think, you know, we are taking that very seriously and are recognizing those opportunities as they come down the pike and present themselves.
You're a serious man. That's good. I just wanted to ask about the Finance Advisory Board. Are they active or what's happening there?
We actually have a meeting scheduled for the first week in, or first Tuesday, I believe, Monday or Tuesday in June, coming up. And that will be a virtual meeting, much like this is. But, you know, we're getting back into the fold, if you will.
Thank you.
Yes,
Thank
sir.
you. Commissioner Hardy?
Yeah, okay, I'm already unmuted. The first thing I'll say is anyone who says that local governments and state governments don't need their own stimulus from the federal government isn't paying attention. And anyone who wants to politicize the fact that local governments are suffering right now because of these revenue shortfalls, which are as real for us as it is for the business community, they're not paying attention. And, you know, we have to do what we have to do. And if paying our bills means that we have to take on this debt obligation, then that's what we have to do in the short term to keep the ship afloat and figure out, you know, how are we gonna bring this thing home? But there's a package right now that's passed the House in Congress, and that is waiting to be voted on, that literally has $1 trillion for state and local governments in it. And the folks who represent us in Congress, you know, we have a very good local congressional delegation here in Palm Beach County, very active folks. Lois Frankel, a fantastic representative. But both of our senators are opposing this package, and one of whom has criticized it along a partisan basis and says, you know, the only folks who are going to, you know, benefit from this are quote unquote blue states that are poorly managed. Well, you know, I don't know if he knows, and maybe we need to consider putting a resolution on the next regular meeting, asking him to support the package that came out of the House. I'm not sure if he's aware, but cities and counties that he represents are in trouble and need those funds. And we're having to do things like borrow money, which no one likes to do, so that we can stay afloat here in this situation. And so, you know, that's number. It's regrettable that we have to do this, but we're not alone, and we need help. There's not enough help coming from above us at the local government level to prevent us from having to do these things. The other thing is, as far as the actual amounts, you know, I was looking at the memo, and it says here that the monthly revenue hit total across all the funds is about $950,000. And you said that about 585,000 of it is attributed to timing, and about 365,000 of it is attributed to, according to this memo, you know, I guess that's permanently lost revenue. Bruce, can you go into that? You know, how you came up with, you know, what you think is due to timing and what you think is due to you know, what do you think basically we'll never get back?
Sure, be more than happy to. As you noted, there are two categories basically differentiated the revenue streams. One being the timing issues, and that's essentially, if you will, payments for utilities is primarily the largest one. We eventually those payments will be made. Maybe not at full 100%, but majority of that will be paid back. It will just be a timing difference. The late fees, though, will never be, because we're not charging those, we're forgiving those revenues.
Okay.
They will never be recognized as revenues. Another good example would be, or is the activity down at the beach. Parking funds, those parking is closed. We'll never see those parking revenues come through the door. Now, there may be some mitigating circumstances, such as rate changes and or other initiatives, policy initiatives that the commissioners take to try to recapture some of those lost revenues. But the time period for which those that parking lot is closed, those revenues are permanently lost. So those are the basic examples of differentiating between lost revenues. Another one would be the golf rounds. Fortunately, the
Right.
golf course recognized the majority of its revenues prior to the pandemic hitting, but they're still lost revenues. So that's the concept behind that.
Okay, and my next question would be, how is the 900, and you hinted at it a bit, but if you can give me some numbers as to how it's split across the different funds. Yeah, I imagine some of it might, like the bulk of it might be in water and electric. Some of it might be in the beach fund. There's the leisure, I understand, the wherever fund that houses the golf course. How is it split across?
If you can give me one moment,
Okay.
let me open that schedule. But as I'm pulling it up, what I did was I went through each fund and each revenue category. And I mean, it will be, it's a pretty lengthy schedule, but for example, I'm starting off with a general fund. I estimated that the timing issues relative to taxes would be $16,000 for slow payments. And that's based on 10% of the remaining payments on a monthly basis. And then the lost revenue would be the gas tax,
Right.
where we're not capturing. Now, again, this is all preliminary. I'm sure, things will move around. There's utility service taxes, some of which were timing. Well, actually, all of those were timing, and that's $39,000 worth. Let's see here. I don't know how much detail you want me to get into right now.
Well, I get maybe in the minutes to the next meeting, if we can include a document that doesn't necessarily go down to each source, but as far as how much of this, like maybe like a pie chart and show a slice for each fund,
Sure.
How each fund would be. Okay, yeah, that would be great.
All right.
And then, just the last question I had was, the city has some reserves, no?
Yes.
And are those like cash reserves or accounting reserves?
Combination of both.
Okay.
Fund balance does not equal cash
Right.
in the savings account. So,
How much in the way of cash reserves do we have?
well, right now, we had about $10 million in operating capital that we keep in the bank. And that's down to about $6 million. And then we have probably about $10 million beyond that in cash reserves and more of in deposits. So we have about, let's say, $15 to $16 million right now. As stated before, if this is it, we don't have a problem, but we don't know the duration. If it's going to keep coming back, how many times, there may be a slowdown. So number one, this is an insurance policy. If we need the money, it'll be there. It's a low, very, very low interest rate. It's protection. And then two, it's seed money for some of the capital projects that were authorized. So if we get this funding, we won't need the funding for the other bonds for the capital. So we can, if you will, lack of better words, mix and match the short-term borrowing with more of the long-term debt and just restructure that.
Okay, and just one last follow-up. Can you go into, I recognize that with the tax exempt bonds, you can't use, proceeds from tax exempt bonds for certain things. And some of this money that you're saying we should borrow, we don't want to go the tax exempt route because some of these things would not, we would not be able to spend tax exempt bonds on some of these things. Could you just give us a picture of what those things are?
Sure, I'd like to. The primary issue is that tax exempt bonds have a lot of IRS restrictions.
Right.
One of those restrictions is reimbursing yourselves. So one of the ideas right now that's on the table is reimbursing ourselves from prior year pay-go and taking those proceeds and using that for capital. Because it exceeds 60 or 90 days, I forget what the threshold is, but it's a very limited threshold of 60 or 90 days, and you can reimburse yourselves on tax exempt. If it's taxable, you can claw back not only behind 60, 90 days, you can claw back 3-4 years. There's really no threshold per se, how far you can claw back. So there's much more flexibility relative to what we can use those proceeds for. And,
Okay.
and that's the primary driver on this conversation, is giving us much more flexibility to claw back, reimburse ourselves for working capital purposes, and basically replenish fund balances in some of these enterprise funds that need to be replenished. So it's a multi-strategy here.
Okay, all right. Okay, those are my questions for now. Thank you, I appreciate it.
Yes, sir.
Commissioner Robinson.
I had two or one. The utility payments that we're not collecting, the payment, we outsource collection on that, correct?
The collections, yes.
So are they going to benefit? How can we step in front of this? I assume a contract with our collection agency. I don't want them to have a windfall for our decision. Do you understand what I'm trying to say?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. No, seriously.
No, you're absolutely correct. Typically, and quite honestly, I'm not as familiar with the utility collection process, but a couple of things. Typically, any type of collections, the municipality receives the principal amount, if you will, and the collection agencies receive the collection fees on top of that. So the city will not be harmed, rather than receiving $100, receiving $50 of the revenue.
Yes, I understand that, but how can we short circuit the, now the collection amount is rising, and I think that's to the collection agency's benefit, and I would like to renegotiate the contract or make a clause that, you know, because of this decision, we need to make it a separate effort to collect our back due.
Well, there's another issue, and this is something that we have to talk to administratively. I'm sure there's going to be a grace period relative to how long people have to.
That's not money. Sorry.
I was saying, I'm sure there's going to be a grace period. So on day one, we're not going to start collections on these outstanding bills. I'm not, we haven't talked that in the detail yet, but ultimately, if some of these are outstanding, I understand your point, but the contracts have been negotiated, if you will. We'll talk administratively is best that I can say at the moment.
All right, I just want to try to not have the collection agency have a windfall from our decision to increase the debt owed us.
No, I understand what you're
Okay. Okay. And the cost of bonds, we're borrowing at 3%. Is there any benefit to borrowing more? Or do we want to keep that cash to benefit a bonding process?
Well,
balance those?
It probably won't be 3%. No, it's probably going to be lower than 3%. Knock on wood. But number two, this is a third piece of our borrowing initiatives for this year alone. We have the capital piece, the combined utility piece that we've talked about. We have the offset to the penny sales tax, and then we have the working capital. We don't want to get too aggressive on the borrowing because we have to have the debt service to cover it. And because our revenues are somewhat limited, for example, we're at the top of our tax levy capacity. We don't have all the opportunities, if you will, to increase revenues during cyclical economic processes like we are in right now. So, I just would caution to keep our debt service below 10% on the general fund anyway. Now the utilities are another matter, because they can set rates and have more flexibility, and they are capital in nature. A lot of times they can be 15 to 20% of debt service to operating income. So each fund is a little bit different. I get your point, and that's one of the strategies of one of the reasons why we are going out to debt now versus, for the SHRIP and the electric and the water sewer, because the rates are advantageous.
Good.
No doubt.
Thank you, Commissioner. Finance Director, first of all, I remember in the last reports that we had, our reserves were below where they should have been, correct? Was that in our last meeting that we discussed?
Yes. Yes. Yes,
So
ma'am.
we're trying to shore up our reserves. What, if any, of the money that's already come down from the state to the county that the county already has in their possession are we entitled to?
I do not have that information off right now.
Madam Mayor,
Yes.
we're monitoring the $261 million in different categories that the county has received across a variety. I believe I set the commission a week or two back what each one of those categories are. There's pieces, and depending upon how the county sets up the programming is going to determine what we may be eligible for. For example, on the reimbursements for COVID-related activities, as a city that doesn't have its own police and fire, for example, our purchases of protective gear and things that are related to responding and working through this period isn't as high as some of the other cities. So it's almost on a case-by-case basis. And the county just this week sent out, I think, 2 sets of grants that are coming out of that pot of money. So we're monitoring very closely across all the departments, the different funds and the different categories in that pot. And it's an evolving process. And we're working to be in front of as much of money as possible, including what the finance director alluded to earlier about the potential for some possible capital money that might come through for projects. So a lot of the money is going directly to businesses, for example, and different types of needs in the community. So that's kind of a rambling answer, but it's an evolving process. There's a lot of money there. The county's working through where to put those different pieces. And I get questions on a daily basis about making sure, we're listening, paying attention, listening to county commission meetings, reading the different things that come through on each of the different categories so that we don't miss any opportunities.
Okay, well, that coupled with our reserves being low and waiting on money and our cash flow being issues is why I'd be supportive of doing this, taking advantage of the advantageous rates, but also remembering too that hurricane season is behind us as well.
Absolutely, Mayor. And two, some comments that Commissioner Hardy made, the battle in Washington right now on focusing more on the smaller cities and the city's
Right.
needs and operating. This first round of the big CARES Act was really targeted for the larger 500,000 and above, the bigger counties and cities, as well as businesses, and directly to people, residents and citizens. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Commissioner Hardy?
Can't hear.
Okay, am I unmuted now?
Yes.
Okay. I think so. Before I get to my actual question, can we talk a little bit about the SHRIP? So we're good to go with the SHRIP, because the last conversation we had was our reserves at the utility were very low, not where we thought they would be. And part of us going out for the bonds that we would need to execute the SHRIP was us building our reserves. So are we okay there? Are we able to bond that out at this time?
Right now, the nothing really has changed. The electric company has marginal reserves, and right now we're preparing the audited financial statements and getting the credit presentations ready.
So we haven't gotten a rating yet or anything like that?
No.
Okay. Okay. All right. Okay. And my question was about, first of all, how much money are we taking in monthly as a city total? And how much money are we spending? And if we didn't borrow this money, how much time would we have if things continued as they are today?
At this time of year, because our primary revenue for the general fund anyway is taxes.
Ad valorem?
Taxes.
Right, which comes in one time a year.
Well, a couple times, but
Okay.
the majority of it has been paid.
Okay.
So we're expending more dollars, if you will, than is coming through the front door.
Okay.
And
By about
again,
how much?
Right now in a month, we've gone down a little over $1.5 million in our balances. And again, this is today, if I knew that this was going to be the end of it,
Mhm.
I think we would be having a little bit different conversation.
Mhm.
Because we don't know, again, the duration of this and how deep it's going to go in the future. I think it's just prudent to have those funds available. If we find out that we don't need them in the future, as I stated in the beginning, it will not have a prepayment penalty.
Mhm.
So we can pay them off or
And back. Yeah, without a, yeah.
exactly right. It's just, I think, prudent that, we have to pay our bill. And you said it, very eloquently, we have to pay our bills. We had to, we have payroll every 2 weeks. We can't put ourselves in a position where we don't have the cash flow stream to facilitate that.
So basically, you said we had about 16 million on hand
Right.
between, our operating capital and, cash reserves. So basically we have 5.5 months if things keep on like this, that if
Right.
we don't borrow this money, we've got 5.5 months.
But remember also, part of this is taking and jumpstarting some of the capital appropriations that we haven't received funding for yet. So we
Well-
can take the money that we're getting in as this capital or this working capital, start the projects, and then as we go out for the long-term piece, replenish. So we have some flexibility to jumpstart some of the capital programs that have been appropriated.
Outside of the capital programs in the electric or water utility, what are some of these things? And, I'm wondering if we can not do them this year. I mean, look, this is the deepest recession. We don't know how long it'll be, but it's the deepest recession in a while, in our lifetimes, and probably certainly in my parents' lifetime. Might we want to delay things that are not financed by ratepayers?
Well, some of this would be from the penny sales tax, for example.
Okay.
And, arguably, putting money such as this into the local economy could be a benefit. If we retract and do not follow through with some of the capital initiatives, the trickle down is that the local contractors and those that they employ who would otherwise receive that income flow will not. So there's a two-edged sword.
Sure.
I understand what you're saying, but
We're on one side of that, that sword, and folks who are not, the institution that is the city are, on the, and everybody, who has capital to spend right now, who has, capital spending to do, they're pulling back, whether, public sector, private sector, there's this kind of sense that we don't know what's going to happen. And we need to find some more cash and maybe not spend some of the cash we have. And I'm wondering if it's not related to, utilities or the road bond, that maybe we should just press the pause button, because we really do not know what the next 6, 12, 18 months are going to look like for us economically and for us financially. And I imagine that the sales tax has taken a tremendous hit over the past, several months. So I'm wondering if we might want to just pump the brakes on some of this non-utility and non-road related capital spending. Has that been considered?
That would be a policy discussion, yeah.
Yeah. I think we might want to have that discussion soon, maybe at the same time we're considering having the discussion about borrowing the money to pay for the capital.
Madam Mayor?
Yeah, you know what, I want to just give everyone a chance. We haven't heard from all the commissioners on this. And Commissioner Maxwell,
Did he raise his hand? I don't think he raised his hand.
it was up. I have a card here from Sylvina saying he did. Are you not choosing to? Okay. Vice Mayor, did you have anything that you wanted to add? Okay,
I'm
Commissioner
ready to vote,
Robertson,
Madam Mayor.
pardon me?
I'm ready to vote, Madam Mayor.
Okay, City Manager, and then Commissioner Robinson.
I just wanted to add another example to the sales tax. I know the finance director mentioned sales tax expenses, and there's some things related to Parker Commerce and those investments. But to the point of projects, year 4 in the neighborhood road program, we're waiting on projects right now that are related to expenses that need to be covered in projects for the water utilities, because one of the mantras we had was do it once, do it right. And so we can't get to the bond money that we borrowed from the neighborhood road program year 4 And I know that there's some projects that are ready to go. And one of the things we're looking at right now is getting that money shoveled over into water utilities so they can do those and finish up so that we can then do the roads on top of it. So there's a lot of a flow and continuity of projects that's actually already ginned up and ready to go in some cases, that this money would help bridge that gap and get us up and going. So I just wanted to give another example.
Okay, thank you very much, Commissioner Robinson, and then we'll wrap things up.
Yeah, I know. I'm ready to vote, but I did want to mention, and Commissioner Hardy had the same concern of starting projects that we might not, we might regret later. I want to be cautious, and I think that we do need to have a meeting about, you know, where we can cut, when we can cut, and how we can cut.
Agreed.
Okay. And the other thing was this vote that the Senate is going to take to address more needy people. And I was serious. I mentioned it Tuesday night on sending a letter to the senators, which they're the ones that are going to vote on this, either through the League of Cities or the county, or just directly from us as a city, united in asking for their compassion. And I wonder if we need a vote, or whether there's a consensus to send a letter to Senator Scott and Senators Rubio stating our wishes for understanding.
Okay, Vice Mayor Pro Tem. Unmute you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just want to, there's been a lot of conversation here about putting the brakes on capital projects that in many cases are going to be funded by the penny sales tax. And I would say that, we've got a prioritized list. We need to at least begin some of these projects. I don't think it would be really smart to put everything on hold, because as Bruce alluded to earlier, these projects infuse cash and whatnot into the economy. So we know that there's going to still be a lion's share of that sales tax money probably left at the end of the day. We don't know how much there's going to be, but I don't think we necessarily have to stop or put the brakes on the most immediate priorities that we have for the petty sales tax. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Do we have any public comment cards, City Clerk? You have to unmute yourself.
No, Keith had me muted. So no, Madam Mayor, there are none.
Okay, we've got a motion on the floor and a second. All those in favor state so by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Okay.
It's
I'm an aye.
An aye? Okay. Like you're muted, Commissioner Robinson. Commissioner Robinson.
There we go. I'm an aye for the borrowing. I
Okay.
wonder,
Hold on a second. We've got a motion carries unanimously, Madam City Clerk.
thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, we're going to adjourn the meeting and move on to the next
well,
meeting.
I had my hand up as we were voting, and
Well,
I'm still trying to find there it is.
okay, well, we already had the vote, so.
I understand that. What I was going to ask was, do we need a vote, or can we have a consensus to send a letter to our senators?
Yeah, we've already talked on this one and deliberated and voted, so we're gonna follow the rules and just continue on. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second,
Second.
all those in favor state so by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
Well, I'd like to see if we have a consensus for a letter. So I didn't think the meeting was over until.
If he's making a motion, I'll second it.
There is no motion because it's not an item on the agenda. The motion has already been, we've got 3 votes to adjourn the meeting, so the meeting is adjourned. All right, let's go on to our next City Commission work session. This is in reference to vacation rentals and business licenses. And we're going to call this meeting to order this Thursday, May 21st. City Clerk, would you read the roll, please?
Mayor Pam Triola.
Here.
Vice Mayor Andy Amoroso.
Here.
Commissioner Scott Maxwell.
Here.
Commissioner Omari Hardy is here, but he's muted.
Here, yeah.
Oh, Commissioner Herman Robinson.
I'm still here.
Thank you.
Okay, we did our pledge the last time around, so we'll move right on to updates, future action, and direction. And this is item A, work session discussion on vacation rentals. Vice Mayor?
Real quick question, Madam Mayor, for the attorney. It says it's a work session, but I see that you're looking for a motion, but it doesn't say a motion. It just has one or two. Why is it different than usual?
The motion there shouldn't be a motion.
That says NA.
Yeah, not applicable.
No, but it looks like you're asking for us to either pick one or two.
Right, maybe I should have clarified, what we're really looking for is sort of to move this to official action, is if there's consensus on changing the current course of action versus doing something different. That would, if we do something different, that would likely trigger at least an ordinance change that we would have to bring back for official action.
Okay, so it won't be a motion, it'll just be a consensus on one or two or something else.
Correct, thank you.
Thank you.
We really need to be consistent because this confuses the heck out of us on a regular basis when we have work sessions and we have agenda items, because people feel that they're not being heard. An agenda item has to have the research, the backup item, you make a motion and then second it and you vote on it. A discussion is a discussion and consensus, but we seem to be crossing over in some of our agendas. No vote on a commission item and whatever. Can we move the discussions to workshops and keep the agenda items to be voted on in the regular meetings so that there's no confusion? Because it really is creating some, animosity and also some, some pressures. Okay, thank you.
Absolutely.
All right, Commissioner Hardy.
You're muted.
Muted.
I don't have a packet. I don't know if there's extra materials, but I don't have that.
There are no backup materials to this. It's just the
Okay.
staff report.
Because, okay, I don't have, or at least I don't see a staff report for this either.
Madam Mayor.
Did you get them at your office? All your packet was delivered to your office today?
Okay, well, I went straight up here.
I'll send it to you.
Okay, I would appreciate it. Thank you.
Sure.
Madam Mayor.
You're muted, Madam Mayor.
Vice Mayor Pro Tem.
I'll lower my hand for the moment.
Thank you, City Manager.
I think it might be helpful if the city attorney could launch into her presentation. It probably will answer a lot of questions about what we're trying to do here tonight in this workshop session. And I ask that we'd allow her to proceed.
Sounds good. City Attorney.
Thank you, Madam Mayor and Commissioners. And I also just want to point out that we do have William Waters with us as well on this meeting, who also has a lot of knowledge and background on this issue. If you've had a chance to look at the agenda memo that we provided, it's based on sort of our legal review of this matter, looking at the city's history and also looking at some new case law and attorney general opinions on this issue. Basically, the city's legal position has been since before June 1st of 2011 that the city does not permit vacation rentals anywhere in the city. That opinion has been around for a while. There was a workshop, some of you may recall, back in 2013 with William Waters and Barbara Alterman, who was with our firm at the time. And they talked about the same issues. From a legal standpoint, at that time, there had been a 2011 change to the law. And that change to law preempted the area of vacation rentals It was a broader preemption, and some of the discussion in 2013 dealt with that very broad preemption. Under that preemption, you could not prohibit vacation rentals. You could not limit the duration of a rental of a vacation rental. And you were also restricted from imposing any regulations that were just based on the fact that they were vacation rentals. So a very broad preemption to the state. After the workshop in 2013 and 2014, the legislature in Florida changed the law a little bit. And what they did is they removed the preemption on restrictions that are basically because it's vacation rental. So they reduced the preemption a little bit, but it's still preempted in terms of you can't have a law that prohibits vacation rentals, and you can't have a law that deals with or restricts the duration of a rental. Now, both preemptions in 2011 and 2014 said if you had a law in effect before June 1st of 2011 that prohibited vacation rentals, that local law continued even after the preemption. So the city's position has always been that we had pre-June 2011 a law that prohibited vacation rentals in the city. And that has continued and not been changed. What we're basically here to talk about tonight is, do we stick with that June 2011 status of prohibiting vacation rentals, or do we make a change? Because of the current statutory preemption, we are very limited in our options. And basically what our option is if we sort of remove that grandfather position of all vacation rentals are prohibited in the city, if we remove that, we have to essentially allow them everywhere, but we can put some restrictions on how they operate. And for example, we currently have a business license requirement that also has a use and occupancy inspection requirement. Many cities are now using that type of structure to restrict vacation rentals in some regards. A lot of it tied to life safety, a lot of it requiring registration requirements, there's fee requirements, there's annual inspection requirements. So heightened regulations mainly tied to life safety to make sure that these vacation rentals that are open to the public are safe and conform otherwise to a city's code of ordinance dealing with noise, nuisances, and occupancy levels. So for our discussion tonight, it's really the policy decision of, do you want to stick with the 2011 pre-2011 prohibition, or move forward to allow these throughout the city with some other type of regulation on their ability to operate?
Thank you very much. Commissioner Hardy, you have your hand up first.
Can't hear you.
Muted.
By the way, Debbie, I saw that Melissa Coyne emailed us earlier today with that information. Look, I'm in favor of allowing these and allowing them, regulating them. I don't know if it's within our power, taxing them. Look, the first thing is, I get that folks have concerns about Airbnb and VRBO and these short-term rentals. One, changing the character of their neighborhoods because the people who might be next to them might not be permanent residents. I get that. I hear it. And I also get the concern from affordable housing advocates who say that these short-term rentals take housing supply off the market for people who need it. I hear that and I get that too. On the flip side, I know a few people who would not be able to afford the home they're in the neighborhood they're in today, were it not for their ability to rent out a room or a backyard cottage on a short-term basis. Because it basically, instead of them carrying the cost of that property by themselves, they're essentially doing it with someone else. And that's how certain neighborhoods have become affordable to a few people who I know that they would not be able to live in for the next probably 10 or 15 years, frankly. Where those are my friends in Northwood or some of my friends in Grandview Heights, which is one of the most popular neighborhoods around. Same thing with Pineapple. What is it, William? What's the? Is it Pineapple? Beach or Pineapple Park? Okay. Yeah. Pineapple Park and Flamingo Park. Is what I was thinking about. And so, look, I want property owners to be able to do what they want to do with their property. And I think that we should be able to regulate it in a way that gives freedom to these folks, but that prevents nuisances from occurring on a regular basis, and that punishes folks who don't do the right thing and create nuisances. And for every nuisance, there are hundreds of examples of folks doing just a good job with their short-term rentals. So I'm in favor of allowing these in the city of Lake Worth Beach. I don't think that this is something that we should regulate away. I think of it as a fundamental property right. I wonder though, Christy, and my question is, I do want people to pay for the value of the housing that they take off the market. That's an externality that has a value. And, I think society should be compensated for that. Is there a way that we can tax these here locally and create for like an affordable housing trust fund with that?
Madam Mayor?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. What I've seen so far is, and William can speak to some of this as well, is I'm assuming we have a category existing on our current business tax receipt structure that would include a vacation rental. If we have that, there's that tax that we can use. If we are doing business license, there's obviously registration fees we can charge. If we're doing use and occupancies, there's fee we can charge, but a lot of that really goes towards the cost to city staff to cover those things. You are seeing cities that are imposing registration fees based on the number of guests allowed within a vacation rental. So they have like a varying structure of the registration fee that has to be paid based on how many will occupy a vacation rental at a certain time. So there's different ways to collect fees on it, but the more regulations you impose, obviously the more staff you're going to need, the more internal cost to the city. I haven't seen a fee structure that's done yet that would do what you're suggesting to somehow collect on the housing it's taking away. That would be something creative we'd have to look at and perhaps just do some research on to make sure that it didn't violate other taxes that are imposed, because obviously they have to pay the tourist tax and county taxes. So there's a variety of taxes currently on them. So we'd need to look at that closely.
Is there an impact fee, perhaps?
Oh, yeah, that would require some research.
Okay. And there's an impact, right? And I know that Broward did a study last year showing the impact of development and certain uses on affordable housing needs. And that's what they used, I think, to basically justify some of their inclusionary zoning type stuff. I could be wrong about that, but I remember hearing a presentation at the joint meeting of the Treasure Coast and South Florida regional planning councils. So we might want to look into that. That might be a fair mechanism that puts a nexus between what we're asking people to pay us and what the reason we're asking them to pay us, frankly. But I'm for moving in a different direction than where we are today.
Thank you. Who's up first? Vice
Yes, Madam Mayor. Before we get too deep into this conversation, I'm just wondering if we might consider where we are at this place in time. And I'm looking at this meeting this evening as a first step in coming to some sort of a conclusion or direction for staff. When we first talked about addressing this issue in a more definitive way, I was under the impression that we were going to begin that process by having a conversation with the operators themselves to find out what that industry is all about, what their concerns are, how they want to police the bad actors, all this type of information. And unfortunately, we don't have that opportunity to do that tonight. So I think it would be a really good idea, a real prudent step for us to do a couple of things here. And first of all, I think we need to identify best practices in the state of Florida as far as what other municipalities are doing to monitor and or if the word regulate is part of that, what they're doing. More specifically, I think we need to know what Palm Beach County is doing, how they address vacation rentals. And I think that once we gather all that information in, I think we need to have the opportunity to sit down with the operators and have a dialogue and find out where we are with this. And so I hope we're not going to get down too deep tonight into a conversation to where we're going to make some sort of a policy decision or recommendation that with an expectation that we're going to come back in 2 weeks in the form of an ordinance or whatever to move forward, because I think that'll be very, very premature. I think, all parties need to be considered, all parties need to be at the table before we start making any concrete decisions on any aspect of how we might move forward with addressing vacation rentals. And also, one more thing. It is true, from what I've read, that it does have a negative impact. Airbnbs can have a negative impact on the availability of affordable housing. I don't necessarily agree that folks should be going out there getting mortgages with the idea that they're going to open it up as an Airbnb to pay their mortgage. Okay, I don't think that's, I don't think that's the spirit of the whole home lending thing, but that's just my personal opinion. But I also believe that you can't have it both ways. I don't think you can say on one hand, we recognize the negative impact on affordable housing, but in the same voice, turn around and say, we need to find a way to glean some finances or whatever from that industry to pay for affordable housing, particularly here in the city. Where are you going to put the affordable housing? So there's a lot of questions here that we have to ask because, you've heard me say this many, many times before. On the subject of affordable housing, Lake Worth Beach has more than its share of affordable housing. So I think we need to take one baby step at a time to get to a position where all parties concerned can live with whatever our decision is. Thank you.
Thank you. Vice Mayor?
Yeah, so let me recap a little bit. So back in 2011, 2013 was when vacation rentals really popping. And there was a group of vacation renters that I think some of them have weighed in tonight. I think we have quite a few comments, but they were going to police theirself. They were going to put their group together and police theirself. And I think it started out that way. I hadn't heard from them in the last couple of years, so I don't know if they've been doing it regularly. I would assume they may not have been because some of the issues that I've heard is that the Airbnbs are homesteaded. That is not acceptable. They're not paying their sales tax. I think and William might be able to talk to this, what I'm hearing from code is one of the issues that we're getting them on is they don't have a basic business license. And yes, under our rules, they can have an Airbnb, but if you're going to have a rental, you at least need a business license to have a rental. And they don't even have the basics. So, I agree that we need to move forward with some rules and regulations. But this group came to us back in 2011, 2013, and told us that they were going to help do that and monitor and help move the proper practices forward. And now we're talking about doing it all over again, but we were promised that, back in 2011, 2013, when we first had these conversations. Bed taxes, sales taxes, all those other things. As far as impact fee, Christy, I'm concerned about that. Not that I agree with some kind of fee, like Commissioner Hardy said, but wouldn't that fall into policing Airbnbs because, or vacation rentals? Because what I understand we're trying to do tonight would fall under rentals. We're not targeting because we can't. And under the rules and regulations, we can just do rentals. So that would be my first question.
Madam Mayor?
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, Commissioner Amoroso, I think it's one of those areas that we would have to do a lot more research on it, because we're going to have to be looking at the difference between a tax and impact fee and other fees that we can charge for essentially city services. So we would have to, do some research in that area to see what fees we could charge, however they're phrased, and ensure that they're not preempted by statute or some other tax implications.
Okay, and then my other, Commissioner Maxwell had mentioned something about not moving too quickly. I'm on the fence with that, because I really think we need to try to move forward with something tonight, because we already have people, and I'll let William speak on that, that have come to special magistrate that have been found in violation according to our law. So either, and they're already in fine, and from what I understand, there's quite a few in a queue to move forward. We're kind of not moving forward right now because of the pandemic. But where are we? I mean, the longer we go with that, these people are found in violation. One already has, I think, $250 a day in fines. I don't believe they're paying it, but where does that stand as far as lawsuits and everything? So I think we need to try to clarify something tonight to at least have staff start moving forward and let these vacation renter owners know that we're actually moving forward with something. But again, just some of those things, the homestead exemptions, the sales tax, basic business license, noise ordinances, and I'll allude to William, I think all that would fall under the section 2, if I'm not wrong.
William?
Pardon me, Mayor. I'm William Waters, Community Sustainability Director. Section 2 of what were you referring, Mr. Amoroso?
Vice Mayor?
We have two things on we have a 1 and a 2, and in our emails from the vacation owners, they referred to 1 and 2. So that's why I was referring to 1 and 2.
Yes, those types of items would fall under item number 2.
Okay.
Okay. I have a question for you all, actually, because I agree with all of you on different points. I think, yes, we do need to act on this because we do have several people in the queue. And this conversation, it goes back to some of the conversations we've had about sober homes, some of the conversations we've had about businesses, and some of the, landlords in the city. There are good ones and there are bad ones. And I happen to live across from a large vacation rental that was multiple units on the same property. And did I have to call police? Yeah, several times. I would say it was a minimum amount in comparison to the amount of rentals that actually happened there, but they were big. 300 Lynn University students showing up for a Halloween party at the house across the street. There were some adult movies being shot. There were all different types of things that I had to call police on. And there was a family that was right next door with 2 little babies that was right next to this property. You talked about impact fees, Commissioner Hardy. The impact on the neighbors next door to these properties is sometimes difficult because people are on vacation and they're not thinking about it. They're treating it like a hotel as opposed to they're in the middle of a single family neighborhood. I will tell you, I know many people that do it in other cities around the county and beyond that. I've utilized an Airbnb myself in the past up in Massachusetts years ago. So I get it. It's here. It's not going anywhere. It's like Uber and Lyft and cars that drive themselves and all the other things that are coming, and they're here. So I think at this point now we've moved past 2013 and we're now on to the fact that they're here. But like I said, let's go back to good operators and bad operators. Okay. The one thing that I found from most of the examples, that people that live in or near the properties that they're leasing, for lack of a better word, tend to be more controlled and orderly than ones where there are owners outside of the state or country even that are purchasing homes here as investments and not monitoring it and just making money off the websites. Many of which are not licensed, many of which are not, inspected, many of which don't know what's going on there, nor do they care because they've got their bookings in there. Again, good and bad. There's plenty of good operators in the city, I'm sure as well. But we need to look at what we can do, I think, to take advantage of the fact that, we have, if you remember, Vice Mayor and Vice Mayor Pro Tem, I think it was back in 2013 that when we discussed rentals, and this was long-term rentals, this wasn't short-term rentals, we had asked William, I believe, to put in an item that said, if you are going to rent your property, you had to have someone who is X amount of miles from this property so that they could be contacted in case by the neighbors or by police if there was something happening.
Vacant registry.
And number 2 does that, correct?
Management.
I'm sorry, William?
Well,
Having a manager on site or the owner being close by to actually know the impact that their property is having on a single family neighborhood that they're most likely in.
The provision is actually in, I think, Chapter 14, Business Tax Receipts and Licenses, that properties that obtain a business license for rental have to have a responsible party registered within no more than, I think, 50 miles from the city of Lake Worth Beach. So
Okay.
if there is a business license registered with us, we should have a contact person. Now, there are business licenses that existed prior to that requirement, and we're still catching up on getting those contact people. But that is a requirement you all put in the ordinances at least 5 years ago.
Well, I had to call the police on it, and I was waiting on the police. I know I received an email from somebody that was talking about a giant party or something like that, and I've been through that. And there was drug use in the driveway, and there were strange cars coming in and out and whatever. And I called police, and police came and took care of it. Can we also go and use the rules like we do for our nuisance properties as well? Is if a location is constantly having drug activity or wild parties and sound issues, noise decibel levels or whatever, that we could follow something in that suit also, so that they could, can we use those types of things that we already have in place for rentals? So we're not reinventing the wheel here, but we're giving people, the thing is, like, we changed from code enforcement to code compliance. We want people to operate, if they're going to operate a business, they want to operate a good business. And Vice Mayor, I agree with you. You don't homestead your home and you're running a business out of it. I'm sorry, you can't have it both ways. I don't agree with that. But I think that if you're going to run a business, if your home is going to be your business, or if you're not living in the house and renting out a room, maybe there could be a difference between whether you live on the property full time and you're renting out a room, as opposed to someone not living on the property and solely using it to rent out to other people. These are things I think that if we can kind of get with you, Christy, and put together, I like the idea of coming back, that we can maybe have I'd love to be able to actually be in our commission chambers where we can have members of the community come in and speak and listen to our debate and be able, because when they put in cards here, they're not able to hear what we're talking about or respond to us, around what our conversation is. It's just what's on their mind before we even get to talk about it. But I'd like to be able to bring in, what can we do legally? How can we treat this? And then bring the members of the community in that are for and against it, and give them a chance to, to verbally talk about, to be able to talk about what they're feeling and how they're impacted by it. I know we are limited in the restrictions that we can do, but we certainly put some things into place that for long-term rentals that I think could apply to this, and will also be very diligent on inspections, nuisance, and enforcement. And if you don't have a license, guess what? You've got code violations, right? Okay, Vice Mayor.
William, is it the county or the state that has the 60 days? How does that apply to something like that? Because for a regular rental, is it 60 days in the city of Lake Worth, or do we fall under the county?
It's defined as a term called transient housing. And in our land development regulations, we have a definition of transient housing being rentals of less than 60 days. The same terminology at the state level has leasing properties for less than 30 days. I'm not overly familiar with the counties, but I believe the county runs the same as the state of 30 days or less.
So anything we do will still not allow the vacation rental to do 2 weeks.
Well, this is where Christy was mentioning we may have to come back with a change to our ordinances, and we change our definition of transient lodging, change possibly the time frame. But transient lodging is a lease term of any, according to the state, any term less than 30 days. It could be 4 days, 14 days, 27 days. Our requirement is up to 60 for short-term leasing for transient lodging, which can have, a hotel room being leased up to 59 days.
Well, and that was some of the conversations we were having with the hotels and the Airbnbs, because traditionally, even the vacation rentals that I've talked to, they're traditionally renting a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks. They're not interested for the most part nightly. But from what I understand, there are some bad players doing nightly, and that's where the Airbnb, the B&Bs and the hotels had issues. So what's to stop them from doing nightly?
You mean if we were to change the rule and allow them to happen? As Christy mentioned earlier, we have no ability to regulate the lease terms and the length of stay.
Sure. Okay. But if you go with the state, do we not follow the state?
Well, the
Madam
state,
Mayor, if I may clarify.
Yes, please. Thank you.
So under the state's definition of vacation rentals, which William's talking about in terms of transient facilities, it talks about periods less than 30 days. So vacation rentals fall into that. So whether it's a vacation rental of 1 day or 29 days, you fall under that transient lodging facilities for the state, and that captures vacation rentals. Under our code, we don't allow any rentals for less than 60 days currently. So if there is direction to remove that prohibition and allow for what the state has defined as vacation rentals for less than 30 days, then we would have to change our ordinance to specifically address that definition. Does that make sense?
And going back to Commissioner Maxwell's statement about seeing what the county and other cities around us, does the county have 60 days? I mean, I would like that information too.
they do not.
Right. Because what you're seeing now is and I believe Palm Beach County, I haven't specifically looked at their ordinance, but for most counties and cities that didn't have a vacation rental local law in effect before June of 2011, what they instead have done is created ordinances and codes that address the state's definition of transient lodging, including vacation rentals.
Okay.
Thank you. Commissioner Robinson?
Yeah, I had a couple things. I'm glad to see where this is on the agenda. I'm glad that we're opening up the agenda to other things other than the virus discussion. I'm glad that we don't need a whole lot of backup to have a discussion about items like this. And I was wondering, I think we are going to hear from both sides tonight, both operators, business people, and neighbors. And so I think that puts the illness on us to move forward with decisions. And we're not going to please everybody, but to put it off to conversations that I think we already know what's going to be said is delaying, and justice delayed, as they say. Keith, is Keith available to tell us how many people are watching this meeting tonight? That's usually part of the technology of this Zoom. So anyhow, if they're watching, they know what we're talking about, and they can always, if they have an interest, they can go to tomorrow's TV and watch it. I'm astounded that when we have advertisements on the internet for Airbnbs in Lake Worth, and the code department or licensing department doesn't follow up on that. I just don't understand why this is an issue that isn't addressed. when Airbnb is in operation, they're supposed to pay a bed tax. I'm hoping that the county tax department, we get some of that. It's important. They're tourists, they're bed tax that we don't get a whole lot of, but any Airbnb should be paying a bed tax and we should be getting a part of it. I'm concerned about turning regulation and enforcement, or however you want to put the illness on other businesses to police themselves. I don't think that's their rule. Vigilantes we've done away with a while ago. We have government that's supposed to regulate. I know that our commissioners are always concerned about enforcement. It's difficult. I don't want neighbors to be against neighbors, but I'm glad that we're having this conversation tonight, maybe because of the increase of incidents of bad happenings. I was, again, disappointed in PBSO's response to a party at 2:30 in the morning, and no report was made about it. And if there was a report, then Airbnb could have acted on it. And I just want to say that if we're going to allow Airbnbs, I would like to see not an impact fee, but a heavy deposit, and that a required payment, that if they have complaints, have calls for services, which are justified because there's a lot of turnover, and that deposit would be relinquished with the number of complaints and calls for services. And I'm glad we're addressing this now. I recognize the affordability part of it is interesting, because if we allowed rental of some parts of a homesteaded home, that's allowing home ownership. It can be rented and homesteaded at the same time, but it has to be registered and paid for through, I'm going to say, a deposit. And it's a business that brings tourists to town. So I'm hoping that we act as a government in unity to regulate and make it as workable for both neighbors and the businesses that are operating these. Done. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, when I had a business in my house, guess what? I had to get an occupational license in marketing and advertising, right? I was working out of my house. I had to get a business license, and I had to get inspected, regardless of the fact that I work within my house. So if you are living in and I still homesteaded my house, right? But I was living in my house and working in my house. It's different if you're living in your house and you're renting out a room, you're living in that house. And I have a little bit more, movement on that if you're actually living in your house, because those are some of the best rentals when you have someone either living next door or in the house. But as for someone who's out of state, out of town, out of whatever, buying up houses and leasing them out without any recourse as to who's in those properties other than what they say in the email, and not caring for them or allowing them to have parties. When you look at Airbnbs, they say strict restrictions, no parties, the neighbors will call the police on you, or you this or that. I mean, you know what you're getting into at that point. That was the one listing that on the house across the street from my old house, and yet they still had parties and all kinds of stuff. So it just matters. The people are going to do what they want to do. But if the owners care about it and they're there and they're active in their properties, they're responsible, they're respectful. And I can guarantee you, anyone in that category is saying, hey, help us here. We'll pay whatever taxes, we'll pay the bed taxes, we'll pay the licensing fee, we'll do the inspection, whatever you want. They're just trying to operate a good business. And I get that now. My opinions have changed a little bit since then, but we have to crack down on nuisance properties. We have to crack down to make sure that they're all paying this, because again, they're in the middle of single family neighborhoods. Right now, now there's 5 down, in one neighborhood within a 2-block span, or 6 or 7 within a 2-block span of a single family neighborhood. And you have to be, like I said, you have to not only look at the impact on housing, you have to look at the impact of people that have invested every penny they own to live in a single family neighborhood, and to not have a different person walking out of the house next door each and every day. So you have, if they want to be a business, then put your big girl panties on and pay your fee and do your thing. You're running a business out of your house, then you're going to be treated like a business, and you'll have to step up to those tiers that people that want to operate a business out of their home have to step up to, period. Vice Mayor Pro Tem? Vice Mayor, I'm sorry, Vice Mayor, excuse me.
Yeah, I think my question is for Christy, but it might be for William. So Commissioner Robinson was talking about some things which I think is outside of what we're looking at doing tonight. From what I understand is we are looking to possibly include them as a renter's license, which they have to have now, but we can't target a vacation rental. They have to fall under the category of what we have in our rentals, correct? We can't, anything that we do that might label them as or additional to, we can't do, correct?
Madam Mayor?
Please.
Commissioner Amoroso, that's what's the change to the law in 2014. We can target them now, and that's what you're seeing cities and counties do, specifically creating ordinances to deal with vacation rentals as they're defined under the statute. And so what they're doing is taking, sort of like you just mentioned, the current business license structure and expanding that to specifically address vacation rentals in terms of more frequent inspections, heightened restrictions on life safety issues. Those types of things are what we're seeing cities and counties currently enacting, because the preemption was reduced a little bit in the 2014 change in the law. So this now gives us an ability to, as you said, purposely restrict them in certain ways.
So we can put a separate line item in there specifically addressing vacation rentals.
We could create an ordinance that specifically addresses them. The business tax receipt is a little bit of a different issue, but usually that's not a big, huge moneymaker for the city. But we can specifically target them to address concerns we have about how they operate.
Okay, and I'm also concerned about any funding that we already have coming into the city in some of these categories, because, some of the emails I got, said we have 650 in the city. I don't know where those numbers are coming from, unless it's just right off of Airbnb, a platform that says you have 650 choices. But to me, that's a lot of work for our code department if we indeed have 650. So as far as funding, I would hate to take the business license funding or something out of that department that is already, overworked and underpaid, and add another 650 on top of it. So I'd like that addressed and those concerns looked at as far as financial, and make sure that we're looking at all the numbers.
Thank you, Vice Mayor.
Thank you.
Commissioner Hardy?
Yes, I'll address the last comment first. Yeah, I do think that we should charge in the process of registering and all of that stuff. We should charge the owners and the operators of these vacation rentals what we need in order to enforce whatever regulations we might want to pass and enforce on these properties. So that's one thing. Whatever that is, we need to come up with a fee structure or something to pay for our ability to enforce them. Okay, that's one thing. The other thing is there's another cost to society, and it's more diffuse than the cost to enforce them, but it's still a cost. And it's namely that the supply of a very valuable good is reduced because people are taking that good and selling it in a different market. And so obviously housing is a good thing. And when it's taken off the market because folks are renting it out, that there's a cost there, and it's borne by a lot of different people. And in addition to what we might want to charge to enforce whatever regulations we have, I think we should charge something to compensate us for the fact that we're losing long-term housing supply. Those are two separate things. I'm not saying that we should take money that should probably go to run the code enforcement department and divert it to affordable housing. What I'm saying is we should charge money enough to run the enforcement aspect and charge for the cost of this good that has been taken out of the housing market and is now being sold in the short-term rental market, the vacation rental market. So that's one thing. You know, the other thing is, you know, bed taxes, sales taxes, business tax receipts, inspections, registrations, all those things. Those are the things that require, you can't do those things if it's not legal. And so, you know, I get that these folks, they should be paying all kinds of taxes and registering here and there, but we're the ones who've made it illegal. You know, and it kind of reminds me of, frankly, you know, marijuana or sex work. It's like there are all sorts of things that I wish people who sold marijuana did. I wish they paid taxes so we could build some schools. You know, I wish, you know, X, Y, Z, ABC, same for sex workers. I wish they used protection and all this stuff, but guess what? It's not legal. And so if we formalize what's already happening here, which is that we got 600, 700 plus Airbnbs in this city. And if we were to use our enforcement capacity, running behind these people in these short-term rentals, the more important things simply would not be getting done. So chasing behind people's Airbnbs, we wouldn't be tackling the actual slumlords or the bad businesses or the unsafe living conditions. You know, so let's just legalize this thing, promulgate some regulations, charge people for the enforcement capacity, and charge people for the societal cost of the lost housing stock, and you know, move forward. And what is the alternative to that, by the way? Keeping this absurdity we have today, which is where it's illegal in the city, but everybody's doing it. We know they're doing it, and we're just pretending it's not happening. But from time to time, we pick and choose individuals and violate them and take them in front of the magistrate and make them pay X number of dollars per day per violation. That's not a sustainable state of affairs, in my opinion. And so, you know, look, we just need to move forward with number 2. We can figure out how to do number 2. But we cannot question whether to do number 2 or not, because number 1 just isn't working. It's just not working.
Well, I think that what we've all been discussing is that should we open it up, we're looking at the types of restrictions or regulations or taxes or licensing that we would require, also nuisance abatement and different things like that we would want to look at. Should we change this? So I don't think we're not blind. We know that it's going on, and we know probably the only people that get called to the magistrate are the ones who get complained on by their neighbors. And maybe if we had some rules and regulations in place that people were actually paying attention to and honoring their commitments and their properties and their neighbors, they wouldn't be in front of a magistrate. So I think that if we're going to move forward, let's create a set of rules and regulations that everyone can be happy with, but also the people in the neighborhoods that have to deal with a new face every day, they know that they're going to be respected too, because the owner is taking care of their property. And if they're not, the city's going to go after them. And I think that's what my opinion is on it. I think that's what I've heard tonight on it. And City Manager, you've had your hand up for quite a while. I'm sorry.
No, Madam Mayor, you actually encapsulated what we've been hearing from staff's perspective about answering the question. If you are interested in going to the next steps here, there's data that you really need to go to those next levels of conversation on this issue, perhaps in another workshop. And so I think what we would like to do as staff is look statewide at best practices, the things that other cities who have kind of wedged their way into whatever the state preemption can allow to its best ability. And while I'm on that point, I don't want anyone to lose sight of the fact that we would not be like the rest of the local governments and counties across this state in this difficult position if it hadn't been for the state legislature preempting our ability to regulate and monitor and do things differently at a different level. The legislature doesn't know best all the time. And stepping into local issues like this one has put us in a really ugly predicament. With that editorialization aside, best practices, and that would include some of the things that I think that the Madam Attorney talked about: frequent inspections, heightened restrictions, life safety issues, whatever else is out there that we have and haven't talked about. We really need to get some more data on that. And then the resulting possibility of charging, having more frequent inspections, charging different fees if it's legal, to fuel some regulatory oversight with some additional staff, or to provide other legally options, legal to collect and expend options that are out there. That gets at, making sure that if there are bed and breakfast vacation rentals, it's been a long day, making sure they're paying their licenses, their bed tax, their registration, all the things that are in the current law that they should be doing, that regulatory oversight, and then processing other laws that when we have problem actors, that we have a very robust response for nuisance properties. People, whether they're renting in a vacation rental or they're rentals just in general, that people are just not managing their properties is a problem. And it's a problem that if you talk to PBSO and Captain Bayer, he'll tell you, they go to these properties and it's very difficult. You go and roll in on a big party and you're surrounded by a bunch of people and you tell them you've got to stop this, and you do it twice. They're unfortunately limited in some aspects, and I don't want to speak for the sheriff's office, and y'all can have that conversation with Captain Bayer, but it's a difficult set of circumstances. But we should be able to do something. We should be able to get at the pocketbook of those folks who are operating these businesses unscrupulously, whether it's a slum landlord or if y'all decide you want to go and allow vacation rentals, those people as well. So I think we have a pretty good marching list order here of things for us to do some more research and bring this back to you. I want to also be clear that we've been operating under the hope that the legislature would allow us more flexibility and capability in the state law, and they just haven't done that for us as much as we had hoped. The session just ended, and we had promised we were going to have this workshop to start the conversation. We are not aggressively going out there and haven't been going after vacation rentals from code enforcement standpoint. We've been responding to complaints, and that's where we've been going. Through this period of COVID-19 and into the point where we can get some response and direction from y'all formally, we're going to stay in that mode operationally. I just want to make that clear. So if there's any questions or if I've left something out that needs to be followed up on, let me know. But that's kind of where I understand we are right now.
No, and I know too that there's, one of the emails that I received today that was about the incident in South Palm Park, and police told the neighbors that were complaining about it that they couldn't do anything. They were having a party. And I understand that. But at the same point, we have noise ordinances. We have noise ordinances on the books. And when it's 2:30 in the morning and the music is blaring and people are screaming, that's a noise ordinance. So if we're going to create these new policies and nuisance policies and all this kind of stuff, we need to sit down with PBSO and let them know these are our policies on that. And right now, before these even take place, if people are partying, yelling, screaming, music blasting at 2 o'clock in the morning, they have to be cited for noise ordinance violations, or whatever it may be. But we have to, make sure that we're doing the best job that we can. We have 13 cards, Madam City Clerk.
Oh, we have a lot of cards, Madam Mayor.
Commissioner Robinson, did you want to
Just
speak?
quickly, and I know we have to hear from the public, and I wanted to find out how much public is listening. And I one thing, you asked for a question, city manager. I can only say when. Are we going to come back with some ability to move this forward with a positive decision? And I'm interested in moving forward. Commissioner Hardy almost made a motion. I'm in favor of doing number 2. In the future, though, I would hope that PBSO responds in a much more direct way, a better outcome at 2:30 in the morning than to walk away. And I would hope that the licensing department of our city is able to read the ads for Airbnbs and address those properties for licenses. Thank you.
Yeah, I also think too, when you look at those Airbnbs online too, because when this item was coming up, I was looking to see if I could count how many. Do you know how many, when they say there are X amount of listings there, which how many are in West Palm Beach and how many are in Green Acres and Palm Springs? And they say Lake Worth Beach and they're not Lake Worth Beach. So not all of them. Anyway, let's wrap this up, Vice Mayor, and then so we can get to public comment, please.
I just wanted to, last time we had something like this, we didn't get everybody to weigh in as far as their thoughts. So I too am for 2.
Thank you. Okay, public comments?
Madam Mayor, I just wanted to say before I start these public comments, just in case somebody's doesn't get read, it's only because they were sent to several of you. I'm not sure I got everything. And some of them came in through the website. So if I missed somebody, I'm sorry. We'll hear it at the next time we talk about it.
Just for future reference to everyone listening at home, to fill out a public comment card, you need to go to our website to do so. I forwarded all my emails to the city clerk that wanted to make a public comment that I got. I'm sure any of you other commissioners, just by show of your head shaking, did you forward anything to the city clerk if they wanted to make a public comment? You did, Vice Mayor? Okay. Just to make sure everyone was in there, but just for future notice, send them into the city clerk. It's like the blue cards you fill out in City Hall. Okay, thank you. Sorry, Madam Clerk.
Thank you. And this is only while we're having these kind of meetings. When we get back in City Hall, it'll be better. The City Commission, it'll be better. First comment is from Ted Johnson, 802 South Palmway. I am strongly in favor of allowing Airbnb rentals in Lake Worth Beach. Like all rentals, they should be licensed and pay the appropriate taxes. The role of the city should be to respond quickly to problem rentals and shut them down. Most of the rentals are no problem for neighbors. Exceptions should be handled appropriately. It is not the role of government to suppress, but to support individual enterprise and initiative. We need the room for short-term visitors and the owners need the income. I live full-time in Lake Worth Beach and I do not engage in short-term rentals. Second comment is from Joseph Patton. He's the instructor at the Department of Management Programs at the Florida Atlantic University. There seem to be some problems coming from Airbnb rentals in the neighborhood that could use our attention. This past weekend, there were some rather large parties on the south end, broken bottles, noise, ill-parked cars, the usual. One at 212 18th Avenue South and a 2-day party at 219 17th Avenue South. They continued until after 4 a.m. Cars everywhere, midnight till 5 a.m., 60 plus people going in the house. We heard it was a DJ from Miami who may have been charging entrance fee, but can't confirm any of that. Trash, empty bottles, used condoms all over the streets the next day. Disgusting. I believe Airbnbs are not allowed in the neighborhood. Could you confirm? What is the enforcement mechanism to stop this madness? The comment now from Melissa Naiman at 525 North L Street. I am writing to you to express my comments for the workshop on vacation rentals in Lake Worth Beach. I am a Lake Worth Beach local and also own a vacation rental property here. There are over 650 vacation rentals in Lake Worth Beach. Tourism generated by these rentals is vital to the growth and economy of Lake Worth Beach. Many visitors end up buying homes here. Vacation rentals build the community and bring in new homeowners more than anything else. The restaurants and businesses on the avenue rely on this income. I am asking you to follow the current Florida statutes and adopt position number 2. Remove that prohibition and allow for vacation rentals subject only to the city's business license requirements. Thank you. Sarah Martin at 1121 North Lakeside writes, Dear Commissioners, I'm writing to you to express my comments and thoughts as a 13-year resident and multiple historic property owner, investor, renovator for the workshop on vacation rentals in Lake Worth Beach. I have been a member of Visit Florida as well as a member of Discover the Palm Beaches for many years. I've served on committees and boards during my tenure as an executive director of a destination marketing agency funded through government and private dollars. I also share these comments and expertise as a long-time tourism marketing professional. I welcome a meeting to discuss this topic at your convenience in the future. There are over 650 vacation rentals in Lake Worth Beach. Tourism generated by these rentals is vital to the growth and economy of Lake Worth Beach. Many visitors end up buying homes here. Vacation rentals build the community and bring in new homeowners more than anything else. The restaurants and businesses on the avenue rely on this income. Our county and city also receive more funds through business tax licenses, which are required by vacation rental sites and as per the county regulations. Our city is able to supply local tourists with comfortable and well taken care of properties within the state's largest collection of cottages. It is a novelty. We have little or no inventory of hotels that directly feed into Lake Worth Market. Our city is able to compete on a marketing scale with other surrounding Palm Beach County cities when they fully adopt and adore these properties that have been invested in and cared for. The responsibility on both the guest and the owner is high in respect to the requirements to be seen on these sites, i.e. becoming a superhost. This actually brings well-vetted guests and well-managed properties. I'm asking you to follow the current Florida statutes and adopt position 2. Remove the prohibition and allow for vacation rentals subject only to the city's business license requirements. The next is from Cheryl Rashkin, 1302 South Palmway. Good evening, Madam Mayor, City Commissioners, wonderful city staff, and great city attorney. First, I wish to thank the City Clerk's Office for assisting me with my queries today to garner information so I could better understand vacation rentals as used in the city's code of ordinance, and the city attorney for providing it. I applaud this august body on addressing the situation and hope that some meaningful discussion will result in adding more guidance to the owners of these properties within our city. My search led me to find that vacation rental is not defined, but is referred back to resort housing, which by definition is structures containing accommodations made available to people for temporary occupancy. Each unit, such housing, whether denominated a hotel or motel room, apartment, condominium unit, single family residence, duplex, timeshare unit, or otherwise available for dwelling purposes for periods up to 60 days. Several other definitions such as transient, which allows residential rental units of 60 days or less, and vacation rental directing you to see resort housing definition. I couldn't find the date going back to 2011, but I did find the changes were made via ordinance 2014-02. So if 2011 is correct, and we do have guidelines on file with the state somewhere allowing us local regulations regarding these units, the right for you to strengthen or enhance them. All of this is leading me to an issue we are having in our neighborhood with Airbnb units. We have several of these units plus VRBO throughout our neighborhood, and most don't cause a problem, but several do, as they are only rented on weekends as party houses, causing problems for the surrounding homes. This past weekend, one in particular at 219 17th Avenue South was inundated with a large group of people having a really loud party, causing several of the neighboring residents to call PBSO to tamper down the partygoers. So give your staff some teeth in what they can do before getting a complaint about the homes. If the owners are getting business tax licenses from the city, then they need written guidance at the time of application for this type of business and show more respect to the residents surrounding these homes. Vacation rentals are not a bad thing in residential areas, but the owner needs to know they're responsible for the action of their clients, not the other way around. Thank you for your time. Respectfully, Cheryl Ratchton. We have one from Sarah Martin. But it seems like this is the same one that was written just recently. I think I read this already into the record.
One's enough.
It seems to, the format of this letter does seem like I've already read it.
Madam Clerk, there were several that came in that were a form letter, almost like a petition. So what
That
you're
I haven't
going to do-
even gotten into this one, but these all seem to have
There were
the
several.
same bullet points. So I'm not going to read them all. They can get a copy of it from my office if anyone needs it. This
Yeah.
one is from Sarah Martin. And then there's Jesse Shade. It's pretty much the same thing, wanting to adopt position 2. Shane Reagan writes, I am writing to you to express my comments for the workshop on vacation rentals and Lake Worth Beach. I personally have spoken with the majority of the remaining businesses in the city who have all, with the exception of 2, expressed outrage and disapproval at your attempt to remove tourism from Lake Worth Beach, the last possible hope of the businesses downtown. While I also live in the downtown and have my principal business in Lake Worth, my neighbors to my principal residence is an Airbnb. I cannot say that it's perfect neighbor, but the positives far outweigh the negatives. The tourists are also the majority who put cash in your car parks at the beach. Removing or restricting the short-term rental business is highly detrimental to the last few standing businesses downtown and all area. It would be the last straw to an already failing downtown. It would send us back in time to a neighborhood of crack houses and low-end undesirable rentals. As is the case next to my office space on H Street, where there are 2 rental properties, one with 14 residents and one with 12. There are over 650 vacation rentals in Lake Worth Beach. Tourism generated by these rentals is vital to the growth and economy of Lake Worth Beach. Many visitors end up buying homes here. Vacation rentals build the community and bring in new homeowners more than anything else. The restaurants and businesses on the avenue rely on this income. I'm asking you to follow the current Florida statutes and adopt position, remove the prohibition and allow for vacation rentals subject only to the city business license requirements. There are almost more empty buildings for rent in downtown than occupied. I believe you really need to concentrate on how you intend to resolve this issue. This next one is from Bernard Guthrie, 823 South Palmway. Please add these comments to the public record regarding Airbnb. Dear Mayor and Commissioners, you may be aware of a move to increase density in the Federal Highway Zoning District from 20 units per acre to 30 units per acre. Both the HRPB and P&Z advisory boards have advised against this increased density. Seems like we have a bit of a chicken and egg problem here. Developers refuse to redevelop an area with rampant obvious drugs and prostitution because people will refuse to pay a fair price for a nice development. Sheriff's Department insists the only way to clean up the area is develop our way out of it by building higher end residential, driving the low life out. So instead of incentivizing developers to build higher quality residential units like the townhome community, the answer is to lower our standards, increasing density, bringing in more of the same that's causing a problem.
Madam, is this germane to the agenda?
I believe it was sent because of that item. It's talking about, now we're starting to get the problem in Airbnb operators keeping tax-paying residents awake at night with our deputies saying there's nothing they can do about it. Is this ever brought up at a contract renewal time? That's his comments. Melissa Naiman writes, I am writing to express my comments for the workshop on vacation rentals in Lake Worth. I'm a Lake Worth local who lives here year round and owns a vacation rental property here. There are over 650 vacation rentals in Lake Worth Beach. Tourism generated by these rentals is vital to the growth and economy of Lake Worth Beach. Many visitors end up buying homes here. Vacation rentals build the community with new homeowners more than anything else. Restaurants and businesses on the avenue rely on this income. I'm asking you to follow Florida statutes and adopt position 2. Then there are 34 people who signed this petition. I'll just read the letter. I am writing today to express my profound disapproval of the recent actions taken by the city of Lake Worth Beach against its business owners, residents, and visitors. These actions are not in the interest of the city, its economy, its residents, or its local businesses. Together with my fellow residents and business owners, we are asking you to reconsider these actions, take immediate steps to correct them. Specifically, the city has been issuing code enforcement citations to vacation rental owners because of the definition transient public housing. And he cites the section in our code. The reasoning is not only incorrect and unsound, it's also in direct conflict with Florida Statute 509.032. This is a direct abuse of power to limit the property rights of the residents of Lake Worth Beach. This is a matter that has come up before, and it was the determination of the city that it had no right to do so because of Florida Statute 509.032. As a concerned party to this matter, I am asking that a complete halt be placed on this activity and an immediate in-depth review of these matters be conducted. I ask your cooperation with our legal counsel in this matter and hope for a speedy resolution. Like I said, that was signed by 34, I believe, downtown merchants. This next one is quite lengthy. It's from Anthony Segrich. First, thank you for keeping the city running during this COVID-19 mess. A huge thank you on behalf of the business owners of Lake Worth for allowing us to reopen responsibly. Tonight's City Commission workshop on vacation rentals is of special importance to the business owners of Lake Worth Beach. I would ask that you take the time to read this email and include it with the public comments on this issue. There are also some very specific questions we have and hope they can be answered. Attached, you will find many letters signed by your voters, neighbors, and business owners expressing disappointment in the recent enforcement actions taken against vacation rental owners. Please also include these in your public comments. These actions have inspired us to organize and have already built a group of business owners and residents, about 165 people so far, including almost every restaurant and shop owner on the avenue, who are interested in promoting the economy and growth of Lake Worth Beach. The major issues of discussion: does Lake Worth Beach Municipal Code prior to 2011 prohibit vacation rentals? AKA, are we also grandfathered? 2, should the Lake Worth Beach Commission vote to enforce the current code, or should you vote to strike the code and follow the state's code? 3, how do we move forward? On the topic of is Lake Worth Beach grandfathered, it has been the position of the city attorney, as we have been told that it is. We have asked multiple times, multiple people, for the specific code or statute prior 2011 that prohibits vacation rentals. To date, we have been supplied with none. We have had attorneys who have dealt with this issue in other municipalities before, and we cannot find it. We would ask that the city attorney specifically cite the pre-2011 code or statute they are basing their opinion on. Please tell us what the specific statutes or codes existing prior to 2011 that prohibit vacation rentals. Is the current municipal code of Lake Worth Beach in conflict with the state statutes? The answer is yes. That's why it's being claimed that Lake Worth Beach is grandfathered, according to current Lake Worth Beach Municipal Code, section 23.1.8. If there is a conflict, a state statute should be followed. Why do you feel this does not apply to this conflict? First topic aside, we can leave that for lawyers and more litigious of us. The second topic boils down to what is best for Lake Worth Beach and its residents. Here are some numbers and things to consider. You have many letters of support attached to this email. There are over 650 vacation rentals in Lake Worth Beach. Over 1,650 people per day visit Lake Worth Beach and stay at a vacation rental. There are over 300 plus owners / residents. Real estate agents confirm that at least 30% of their home sales come from people who have visited Lake Worth Beach using a vacation rental. We pay almost 14% in taxes to the state and county per night stayed. Airbnb, VRBO, and HomeAway ban people permanently for not having a valid business license, BTR, and TDT number. These companies also collect the taxes and remit. We bring over $31.2 million to the economy of Lake Worth Beach each year. The answer is quite simple. Yes, vacation rentals are vital to the economy of Lake Worth Beach, vital to the business owners of Lake Worth Beach. It's important to voters and residents of Lake Worth Beach. The last topic is an important one. How do we move forward? Largely, this decision is in your hands. If you adopt the position that Lake Worth Beach is grandfathered in and will not remove this, you leave vacation rental owners and local business owners in a bad position. You may not enforce the code, but looming in our minds is the threat of fines, just like what happened in early March. Attorneys have advised us that, like many other municipalities, the position Lake Worth Beach is taking is not founded in a fair interpretation of the law, but based on a very narrow and biased interpretation of sections, not the whole of the municipal code, both prior to 2011 and as it exists today. See the highlighted questions above. To date, the statute or code has not been produced. This approach did not work out well for them. The attorneys general of Florida have issued several opinions on these matters. They side with following state statutes in all cases. This cannot be tabled like it was years ago. We cannot afford to do so. If you vote to take the position to strike the code you feel entitles Lake Worth Beach to ban vacation rentals and follow state statutes, you have gained the respect and support of a large constituency. We want to work with you to get rid of the few bad actors that are ruining the reputation of respectable vacation rental owners. We are open to paying additional taxes or business license fees. We would invite a Lake Worth Beach tourism fee or room tax. We have over 150 active business owners and vacation rental operators today, ready to sit down and work towards making things better together. Yes, there are bad actors, and we want them gone. Most people are unaware that on average, there are 2 vacation rentals per street. Most people don't even know their best looking house on the block is a vacation rental. We want to be licensed. We want to pay our taxes. We want Lake Beach to grow and thrive. Let's work together and move forward. There's only a couple more. I'm sorry. There's a lot. Dear, this is from Melissa and Gary Madelid. Dear Mayor, Commissioners, and City officials, I am a resident of the Lake Worth South Palm Park neighborhood. My husband and I have lived at 1625 South Palm Way since 2015. While we have been subject to many issues on the south end of Federal Highway, having our home broken into and acts of prostitution on the corner, I have to say this past weekend was one of the worst experiences we've had for a long while. Our home, located on the northwest corner of 17th Avenue South and South Palm Way, and there are 2 homes nearby located at 212 18th Avenue South and 219 17th Avenue South that have been operating as short-term rentals. They can be rented nightly and openly advertised on Airbnb and such. For the past 2 weekends, renters held parties all night to include Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday from 11 p.m. until 5 or 6 a.m. Cars were lining both sides of the residential street, making it difficult to pass through. I estimate about 60 to 80 people were attending these house parties, some even drinking and yelling in the streets. The music was blaring until the early morning hours. As our home is directly across the street from one location, you can imagine how our nights were. We are beyond frustrated that these types of renters are being allowed in our neighborhood. Each day after the previous evening event, we would walk out our front door to trash on our property and lawn. This happens 3 days in a row. A few of the neighbors called PBSO and were told they should confront the people directly, and it was not a PBSO matter. And honestly, they couldn't do anything since it was not illegal to have a party. In any case, the party raged on and then continued the entire weekend. We are not personally opposed to Airbnb locations to be allowed in Lake Worth Beach because we believe such hospitality options can bring nice families to our lovely city and boost the economy. We are opposed to unruly, disrespectful short-term renters being allowed to come in and violate our neighborly environment. The owners of these properties, we feel, need to be held accountable. But what we are as residents to do in the meantime, We rely on our local city government officials and sheriff's office to help us keep the peace. If the city has rules and regulations against short-term rentals and noise complaints, why aren't they enforced? If we reach out to PBSO for help, why are we being told to take care of the problem ourselves? Please address this matter on a city level and help us with these types of renters being allowed. And please make residents aware of what action we can take when this is happening. Thank you for your time and attention to this matter, Melissa and Gary Madelwood. This letter is from Cheryl Sperling at 915 North M Street. I am a resident of Lake Worth Beach, real estate agent, homeowner, and vacation rental owner. I am busy placing many new businesses in Lake Worth Beach as new building owners and businesses with long-term leases. The new artisanal zoning has done wonders. Every day I promote the promise of a Lake Worth Beach that is growing and thriving. Vacation rentals are the hotels of the future. Until all of the strip mall motor lodges are redeveloped, vacation rentals are a major source of life for the Lake Worth Beach economy. I think there are over 300 owners in Lake Worth Beach. Every business owner I speak with on the avenue is in support of vacation rentals. They represent a major portion of their revenue. As a real estate agent, I see many new people visit Lake Worth Beach and purchase new homes. They stay in a historic district and fall in love with its charm and beauty. They buy homes and become our neighbors. Please vote to move forward and support progress in Lake Worth. Vote to legalize vacation rentals in Lake Worth once and for all. We bring in millions of dollars in new revenue each year to the local businesses. We represent hundreds of millions of dollars in home renovation projects each year. We are good for Lake Worth Beach. This is the best path for Lake Worth. Other municipalities have tried to fight progress and did so based on shaky legal technicalities. These were challenged in court cases and the municipalities lost, costing the city money, reputation, and opportunity. You do not have to look far to see the overwhelming sentiment of the state is pro-vacation rental. Please choose to move Lake Worth Beach into the future. Embrace the vacation rentals. Embrace a better economy and growth for Lake Worth Beach. Please do not drag Lake Worth down into an embarrassing legal battle that was lost before it began. We do not want to be known as a seaside town that tried to kick out vacationers and tourism. And there's two more. This one is from Melissa Jones. Dear Mayor, Commissioner, and city officials, I am a resident in the Lake Worth South Palm Park neighborhood. Oops, never mind, I already read that one. And I think these are two that I received from Commissioner Amoroso. I think they were part of what we had already received. So I believe that's all of them that I received, Madam Mayor.
Thank you very much. Is your voice hoarse?
Say what? It's all good.
Commissioner Maxwell? Pardon me?
Never mind, Madam Mayor. Thank you.
Okay, Vice Mayor?
Just real quick, what I took from a lot of that, and I was very concerned about, is that there are parties, more than 10 people, happening during a pandemic. And City Manager, I think we really need to talk to PBSO and get everybody on the same page, because that's very concerning to me that there are large parties going on in neighborhoods during a pandemic when, you know, it clearly states, you know, no events, no groups larger than 10, and there are people doing, you know, birthday parties with drive-bys and everything. And then, you know, if it's true, somebody's coming up from Miami and having a party in a neighborhood. So I'm very concerned with that.
Thank you very much. Commissioner Hardy?
Equally concerned, and we definitely need to get with PBSO both during and after this pandemic to ensure that, you know, our noise ordinances and things of that nature are enforced when, you know, folks call them and they show up to parties and things like that. That's not okay. And the other thing is, Debbie, thank you for reading all those. That had to have been difficult and taxing.
You never thanked me before. No. Just kidding. Sorry. Commissioner Robinson?
I apparently this virtual Zoom thing gives everybody more than their 3 minutes to address and read. We heard from both sides. I'm looking forward to, I didn't get a response to when we're going to bring this back at the next agenda.
I think that we need a city attorney. Would you, I know you've got to do a bunch of research, and I know city manager, you've got to bring back, but I think the consensus of all of us here today was to say that restrictions need to happen, that this is happening already. I'm always, I don't know, take it a little back when people say the commission's actions on this, whatever. We haven't even voted on this right now. And if there's anything going on or any hoo-ha about that we were making a decision without you, we're making a decision with you. That's what your input is here tonight on this meeting. And it's also what happened in 2013 is not what happening in 2020. So we have to adjust to the times, and we have to look at what we're dealing with. We haven't had a hotel, and I can't wait to have a hotel here soon. When it comes to tourism and whatnot, but really we have to remember that the residents in these communities have just as many rights to a night's sleep and not having crime and needles and drugs and condoms and things spewing out in their residential neighborhoods because a party is going on till 4 a.m. or whatever too. So we really need to work together with PBSO, with William and each other to kind of hammer this out a little bit. And no matter what I say, I'm sure the media will only report big girl panties tomorrow, but I think that we can really work together and hammer this out and move together and progress in a positive direction. And I'm looking forward to that as soon as possible. For Commissioner Robinson, please, if you can give us a date or time, that'd be great. If not, can you get with us? If any of you have concerns, if any have concerns that you want to talk to William or staff, please get with them right away so we can try to get something scheduled soon. And
Yes.
I can't wait till we can meet in person again. All right, we're gonna move on to can we take a quick bathroom break? Do you mind?
What else is there?
It's just the 4th of July update.
I'm going to be really quick, Madam Mayor.
Okay, because if I disappear, you know why.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, Madam Mayor, Commissioners. As you know, and we just had a conversation about large gatherings. One of the dilemmas cities are facing is their 4th of July celebration, and as well as other celebrations going forward. I just wanted to give you a quick update from staff's internal, our conversations about this issue and looking what other cities that are surrounding us are doing, as well as our contacts with the Neighborhood Association President's Council on the Great American Raft Race. Right now, Royal Palm, Boca, Palm Beach Gardens, Boynton Beach, Delray Beach have canceled their 4th of July's completely. Not the 4th of July, but the event. There are a couple more cities that are considering and undecided this time. North Palm and West Palm is leaning a little more to a revised event. Some are postponing Green Acres. And then there are some that are shooting off their fireworks still, but not having the event, doing it on a virtual live stream video. And that's Palm Beach, Riviera, Lantana. It's my understanding that the NAPC is considering canceling the Great American Raft Race and moving it to another date. That decision hasn't been made, but they're going that direction because of what's happening. Staff's position is that our ability to put on a large event in Bryant Park right now is not something we can really pull off with everything else that we're doing, but as well as trying to coordinate that kind of an event and keep social distancing is difficult at best. What I really kind of wanted to just sort of poll you really quickly is, do you want to proceed with shooting off the fireworks still and not hold the event?
Vice Mayor?
Yeah, after doing the event for so many years, people are going to descend on Bryant Park, whether you have fireworks or not. And if you have fireworks without having an event, again, fireworks bring people. I'm concerned as far as policing staff, what funding it's going to cost. I think it's going to cost just as much funding to keep people away and or turn them away, because once the sun goes down, people, it's like zombies. They just come out of the woodworks and they're walking and driving, and so I think we need to be very specific. I don't not want to have an event, but I think it's the best thing to do because we're trying to, stop large crowds. But if we have fireworks, I think it's going to bring people anyway. And if Lantana and Palm Beach and other places, could we not, maybe partner with them, or how, if they're going to do it virtually, why can't we just show their fireworks? Because half the time you're looking at them anyway, and do something in a partnership like that, where we're doing it, there's no cost. And, we just need to make sure that we have PBSO and staff, turning people away before they get to Bryant Park, because it's going to be just a pile of cars and people that don't understand we're not having it, and maybe spend a little money in letting people know that, there is not an event going on. And just for clarity, I talked to a commissioner from Boynton, and they didn't cancel it yet. They postponed it because, I think it's 150 years for them. So they're trying to figure out maybe how to do it online. And then also Palm Beach County was trying to, make it, or West Palm Beach was trying to make it because it's also an anniversary for them. So.
Vice Mayor Pro Tem?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. First of all, it certainly breaks my heart to think that we're not going to have a 4th of July celebration. And I mean that sincerely. I just, it's not going to be the same without it. But I understand, I think we all understand what we're up against here. My recommendation would be, as Vice Mayor Amoroso alluded to, we really probably need to market the heck out of this, put up signs, get all our marquees and around town saying, sorry, 4th of July, don't come, whatever. I also think we need to probably tape off Bryant Park and have a presence down there, and have a little traffic control later in the afternoon, and make sure that people are moving along and they're not coming down there. As far as a postponement is concerned, I'm almost, not completely, heartbroken about the raft race. Okay, now the raft race is a very important thing to all of us. It's probably one of, next to the Christmas parade, it's probably the most funnest thing we do all year. But I do believe that maybe we should consider, if the neighborhood associations are going to postpone to a later date the raft race, why not have the fireworks and have a 4th of July celebration centered around that? Let's just kind of move the 4th of July celebration to such time that the raft race, everything could take place. And I mean, heck, they have Christmas in July. Why can't you have July in, I don't know, December? I don't know. Just thought, throw it out there. Thanks.
Madam Mayor, you're muted.
Sorry, I hit 2 buttons at the same time and I sort of lost my screen. Commissioner Robbins, Commissioner Hardy was first. Commissioner Hardy, you're up first, and then Commissioner Robinson.
Look, I don't think that we can have a 4th of July. And to the extent that we think folks might show up anyway, we need to harden our resolve to keep them out of the park. And I agree with Commissioner Maxwell. We need to potentially tape that thing off, fence that thing off, station some deputies, at the entrances. I get that folks, and I love the 4th of July. I love the raft race tradition, and that's something that we should definitely do later in the year. And I'd be amenable to fireworks later in the year. I think we also need to look at our budget. I think there's going to have to be a lot of tightening, going forward. But we cannot have any large gatherings, and we have to be resolved to prevent them. So I'm a no on 4th of July, on July 4th, and perhaps, like Commissioner Maxwell said, December sometime, or when the CDC is not telling us no large gatherings, then we can do this. By the way, I have to apologize for being loud. I had this speaker turned way up earlier, and I was matching the speaker. So I apologize if I was loud earlier in the meeting.
Thanks, appreciate it. Commissioner Robinson.
I'm glad that we're polling in public. I appreciate everybody's comments and always look forward to my fellow commissioners' input. It's important. So thank you, Manager, for allowing us to have a communal polling. I'm sorry that the fireworks aren't going to happen, but this year is different, and I'm okay with watching it on a screen. I have every confidence in the NAPC coming up with a creative substitute for the 4th, the date on the 4th. And they're already doing an art contest for the advertisement. So that's, I hope, going to continue. And I hope Commissioner Maxwell is looking forward to a little of that exercise that he gets once a year on the raft. So, yeah.
Point of order. Point of
good.
order.
Good. He needs it. That's it.
Vice Mayor.
Yeah, I agree with Commissioner Maxwell. How about a Labor Day raft race and fireworks? I think that's pushing it out far enough, and we can kind of plan with the neighborhood president's council.
We have, it's kind of a fluid situation. Obviously, we've kind of waited to the very last moments here on the 4th of July decision, trying to hope against hope that things would be changing dramatically, and they just haven't. So those are options I know that Lauren and her team are looking at. Just remember, we have I'm sorry? Oh.
I didn't get a chance to speak yet. No, I was hoping that we could do the fireworks and just shut everything down and close the parks down and whatnot, to have something, and then televise the fireworks so people that people can watch it. But I'm game to follow whatever you guys want to do. That's fine with me.
So just so for some clarity here, because when we play this tape back tomorrow and Lauren and I are trying to figure out what happened.
They all want to they want to wait.
Well, no event. I understand that. So the fireworks, you're interested in postponing, not doing the fireworks.
Labor Day.
Postponing.
Okay, so we're postponing all of the 4th of July activities. That's fine. I just want to get that clarification. Thank you.
Maxwell, did you want to postpone the fireworks as well? Yeah, you said yes, right? I mean,
We're not having fireworks on the 4th of July. And if funding or whatever the future will allow, we'll do it in conjunction with the raft race.
We'll bring back some options. Thank you.
confirming so that they had a clear view. Thank you.
Thank you.
The funding is always an issue.
Well, and budgetarily, we'll have those conversations as well, how to do that.
All right, so then I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. I'm sorry, who? Hold on 1 second. Commissioner Maxwell, did you have a follow-up?
No, I just wanted to make the motion to adjourn.
Okay, thank you. In a second.
Second.
Well,
I'm sorry, Commissioner Robinson, yes.
I was going to make the motion, but I'm glad. I appreciate the motion. I just wanted to mention the testing tomorrow at the Osborne.
I was just going to do that. Thank you.
Okay, sorry.
Yeah, 11 to 2:30 tomorrow at the Osborne Center. And I want to thank the Palm Beach County Commission and Palm Beach County Fire Rescue for stepping up to the plate, for all the volunteers that are going to help out tomorrow. I don't think they have a ginormous amount of testing kits that'll be at this one. It's the first pop-up. That's why we have some other ones scheduled in the coming weeks. But in the meantime, if you know anyone who's at risk in one of the age groups that's most affected by it, or people that are showing any kinds of symptoms whatsoever, that's why I wanted to make sure that we had testing this week and not wait until the following ones. People that have symptoms or in those risk groups need to get tested tomorrow. Again, it's at the Osborne Center on Wingfield Street by Washington, and that's from 11 to 2:30. Thank you guys so much. We've got a motion to adjourn and a second. All those in favor state so by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you all
very much, Commission. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you all. Thank you, staff.